Okay, so I want you to picture someone. We've all worked with this person. Let's just call him Dave for now.
Oh, I think I know this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all know a Dave.
We do. And on paper, Dave is, an absolute superstar. He's got the MBA from a top school, all the certifications. He's aced every training module HR has ever thrown at him.
He knows the handbook cover to cover.
Yeah.
By all the usual metrics, Dave is high potential.
Right. But here's the paradox, and this is the thing that just drives managers crazy. When the pressure is actually on, a critical deadline, a surprise negotiation, the server just crashes.
Dave drops the ball.
Completely. He freezes up, or he snaps at a key client, or he makes some clumsy rookie mistake that costs the company real money.
It's the classic choke. And that's the moment where leadership looks at him and just thinks, what happened? I thought he was one of our best.
Exactly. And the typical corporate reaction, that kind of knee-jerk reaction, is almost automatic. It's always, oh, Dave just needs a refresher.
Send him back to training.
Send him back to training. Make him click through another e-learning module. But today, we're diving into a stack of research that suggests that isn't just the wrong approach, it is the exorbitantly expensive wrong approach.
I mean, it is astonishingly expensive. We're looking at data here showing organizations globally spend over $370 billion a year on training.
Billion with a B.
With a B. To put that in perspective, I mean, that's roughly the GDP of a country like Denmark.
That is a staggering amount of money. And look, if it worked, it'd be a great investment.
But it often doesn't. And here's the kicker that should honestly terrify any CFO listening to this. Research shows that only about 10 to 20% of that training, only 10 to 20%, actually translates into sustained behavior change on the job.
So if we're being blunt, we're pouring the GDP of Denmark into a bucket that has a massive hole in the bottom.
Precisely. And that hole is what the researchers in our source material are calling the capability performance gap. It is that frustrating, expensive difference between what you can do, your competence, and what you actually will do in a specific moment.
And that brings us to the core of today's deep dive. We're unpacking a framework called the Dynamic Behavior Readiness System, or DBRS, and it introduces a concept that really flips the script on how we think about performance.
The central idea here is really compelling because it challenges a fundamental assumption we have about people. We tend to think of performance as a trait. Dave is a high performer, or Sarah is reliable.
Right, it's like an identity, a badge you wear. I'm a good worker, it's who I am.
Exactly. But this framework argues that behavior isn't a stable trait. It's a system outcome. And it's based on your state. It's not about who you are. It's about how you are right now.
Okay, let's pause and really unpack that, because I think most of us, we operate on the assumption that if we have the skill, we'll do the job. If I know how to ride a bike, I can ride a bike. Simple. Are you saying that's false?
I'm saying it's incomplete. Let's look at the definition from the text. They define behavioral readiness as, and I'm quoting here, an individual's momentary capacity and inclination to engage in a specific behavior.
So the key word really is momentary.
That's it, exactly. Competence is durable. It's, stored on a hard drive. Once you learn the capital of France, you pretty much know it. But readiness, that's your RAM. That fluctuates wildly through the day. You can be a genius at 9 a.m. and functionally incompetent by 4 p.m. if your readiness crashes.
The sources gave some really high-stakes examples of this. It's not just about, forgetting to send an email.
Not at all. We're talking about situations where people get hurt. Think about clinicians, doctors. They know the protocols inside and out. They have the competence. But the data shows that when they get cognitively overloaded, they make significant errors.
Not because they forgot medicine.
No, of course not. It's because their readiness state was compromised. Their processing power was just completely tapped out.
There was also that bit about financial traders. I mean, these are people who pride themselves on being hyper-rational.
Yes. Traders who are fully trained in risk management. They know the math. They know the models. But during extreme market volatility, they often succumb to herd behavior. Their emotional readiness collapses under the stress, and they just follow the crowd instead of their training. They know what to do, but they can't bring themselves to do it.
And there was a statistic about industrial accidents that really stuck with me.
It's a sobering one. The research suggests that 70 to 80% of accidents in high-reliability industries, we're talking power plants, aviation, are linked to cognitive fatigue and attention failures.
It's almost never a lack of skill.
It's a failure of readiness.
So if training isn't the fix, we need a different toolkit. And the source material breaks this down into a system of 5 specific readiness states. It's almost like a a dashboard for a human being.
That's a great way to put it. Imagine 5 lights on your car's dashboard. If any one of those lights starts blinking red, the human is not going to perform no matter how good the engine is.
Let's walk through these because I think they explain so much about why we screw up at work. And it starts with what they call the hardware, the brain and the body.
Right. State number 1 is cognitive readiness.
Now, when I hear cognitive, I think IQ. Is this just about how smart you are?
Not at all. It's not about your raw intelligence. It's about how much processing power you have available in this moment. Specifically, it's about working memory and your executive function. The source draws heavily on something called cognitive load theory.
I've heard of that. Is that the idea that you can only keep a few things in your head at once?
Yes, exactly. Think of your working memory like a physical workbench. It is surprisingly small. For a long time, we thought we could hold, 7 items plus or minus 2. But newer research suggests it's actually closer to 4 chunks of information.
Only 4? That seems incredibly low. I feel like I'm juggling 20 things right now.
You feel like you are, but you're actually just rapid switching between them, which is exhausting and super error-prone. When you pile too many tools on that little workbench, when you exceed that limit, performance just drops off a cliff.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're a genius. If the workbench is full, you can't process a new input.
The example they gave was the Cleveland Clinic, and I love this because it wasn't about teaching doctors to be more resilient.
No, it was a pure design solution.
Yeah.
They were facing high clinician burnout, rising error rates. Now, the instinctive corporate move would be, what? Resilience training.
Here, take a yoga class, then go back to your 80-hour week and just try harder.
Exactly. It puts all the burden on the individual. Instead, the clinic looked at the cognitive load. They redesigned the electronic health record interface. They managed to reduce the number of clicks required for common tasks by 40%.
40% fewer clicks. I mean, that sounds like such a minor change. Did it really matter?
It had a huge impact. They saw a 15% reduction in documentation errors. And physicians reported significantly lower fatigue. They didn't change the doctors. They changed the load. They cleared off the workbench so the doctors could focus on the patient, not the software.
That is a perfect example of engineering readiness. Okay, so that's the brain. Let's look at state number 2, the body, physiological readiness.
Right. This covers your energy reserves, sleep, and your stress response. This is where we talk about allostatic load.
That sounds very technical. What does that mean?
It's basically the wear and tear on your body from chronic stress. It's the biological price you pay for being in fight or flight mode constantly. And the text makes a very strong point here about sleep. We tend to dismiss it, but sleep deprivation impairs decision-making in a way that's very similar to alcohol intoxication.
And yet, in some industries, people wear, I only got 4 hours of sleep, like a badge of honor.
Which is just scientifically insane. It's like bragging you came to work drunk. You wouldn't want a surgeon operating on you after a few shots of tequila, but we let them operate after 4 hours of sleep. The source mentions burnout costs the economy something like $190 billion a year.
Wow.
But let's look at the solution side. The source cites that famous experiment by Microsoft Japan.
Oh, right, the 4-day workweek trial. That was everywhere.
It was. But the details really matter here. They didn't just tell everyone, hey, take Friday off. They worked Monday to Thursday, but they also capped all meetings at 30 minutes.
So they compressed the work, but were ruthless about cutting out the wasted time. What happened?
Sales per employee, so pure productivity, went up by 40%.
40%.
40%. And predictably, employees reported better sleep and lower stress.
That's wild. So by working less, they were more physiologically ready during the hours they actually worked?
Exactly. We see recovery as time away from performance. This research says, no, recovery is a prerequisite for performance. It is the physiological reality.
Okay, so we've got the hardware, brain, and body. If those are failing, nothing else matters. But let's say Dave is well-rested and focused. He can still fail. Which brings us to the internal drivers. State 3. Emotional readiness.
This one is tricky and it's often misunderstood. It's defined as the capacity to regulate your emotions so they inform your behavior rather than derail it.
The distinction the article made here between surface acting and deep acting really stood out. Can you break that down? Because surface acting sounds a lot like, well, my job some days.
Right. Surface acting is faking it. It's forcing a smile when you're seething inside. It's the customer service voice. The problem is suppression is biologically expensive. It consumes glucose. It eats up that cognitive readiness we were just talking about.
So fake it till you make it is actually just draining your battery.
It really is. The alternative is deep acting or true regulation. This is about actually processing the emotion so you can move through it, not just paint over it.
And the example for this was Pixar, which honestly isn't that surprising.
They're masters of emotion. After every big movie, they hold these postmortems. But these aren't your typical corporate checklists. They are structured sessions to openly discuss what was emotionally difficult. The friction, the frustrations, the moments people felt undervalued.
That sounds intense, almost like group therapy for a project team. I see a lot of companies being terrified of doing that.
It can be.
Yeah.
But notice the utility of it. It lets them process that frustration, repair their relationships. The text says it restores readiness for the next project. If you don't do that, you just carry that emotional baggage forward.
That makes total sense. If I'm still secretly mad at you about the last deadline, I'm not going to be ready to trust you on the new one. My dashboard's blinking red.
Exactly. Which leads us right to state number 4, motivational readiness.
This is the why, right? Why am I even doing this?
It's all about alignment. The source references self-determination theory, which says we have these 3 core psychological needs: autonomy, competence, and purpose. If work feels externally imposed, motivation just rots. You're just complying.
Compliance versus commitment. And the case study here was W.L. Gore and Associates, the makers of Gore-Tex.
W.L. Gore is fascinating. They use what they call a lattice structure. No fixed bosses, no standard job description.
Wait, really? No bosses? That sounds like absolute chaos. How does anything get done?
Well, that's the point. No one tells people what to do. Employees, they call them associates, commit to projects based on their own interest. Leaders emerge because people choose to follow them, not because HR gave them a title.
I feel like that would result in everyone choosing the fun projects and no one doing the hard stuff.
You would think so, but it works. Because no one is forcing you to do anything, you're only working on things you've chosen. This creates incredibly high motivational readiness. They aren't burning energy fighting a command and control structure. And their innovation rates are through the roof.
It's amazing how much energy we waste just resisting being told what to do.
It's human nature. Give people the why and let them choose the how, and readiness just skyrockets.
Okay, so we've got hardware, we've got internal drivers, and now the final piece, which the source argues might be the foundation for everything else, the social context. State number 5, interpersonal readiness.
This one relies heavily on Amy Edmondson's work on psychological safety.
We hear that term a lot now, psychological safety. It's become a bit of a buzzword. Does it just mean everyone has to be nice to each other?
Not at all.
Yeah.
In fact, a psychologically safe environment can be quite argumentative. It just means the environment is safe for interpersonal risk-taking.
Can I ask a dumb question? Can I admit I made a mistake? Can I challenge the boss's idea?
Without getting fired or, ridiculed.
Right. In fear-based cultures, people hide errors. And if you hide errors, the system can't learn. A small mistake hidden today becomes a giant disaster tomorrow.
The example here was Bridgewater Associates. And I have to say, this felt like a sharp left turn from Pixar. Pixar is all about, let's talk about our feelings, and Bridgewater is. Well, it's famous for being brutal. It is intense. They practice radical transparency. Meetings are recorded, feedback is real-time, it's blunt, it's public.
Okay, hold on. That sounds like an absolute nightmare. How is that possibly safe? It sounds like the opposite of safety.
It works because the expectations are crystal clear. Politics are minimized. In a normal office, you waste a huge amount of cognitive energy wondering, what did my boss really mean by that email? Or is my coworker trying to undermine me?
The political game. It's exhausting.
At Bridgewater, you don't have to play that game. You know exactly where you stand. So safety here doesn't mean comfort. It means clarity and trust that the rules are fair and applied to everyone.
I see. So both Pixar and Bridgewater create readiness, but in totally different ways. Pixar is about emotional repair. Bridgewater is about eliminating political ambiguity.
Precisely. They both clear the interference of the signal the work can get through.
So we have these 5 states: cognitive, physiological, emotional, motivational, and interpersonal. If anyone is in the red, performance tanks. So what do we do with this? The article talks about engineering the system.
And the big shift here is moving from fixing people to fixing the conditions. We need to stop blaming Dave.
Poor Dave. He has really taken a beating in this deep dive.
He has. We need to adopt what the source calls readiness literacy. We need to teach organizations and individuals to recognize these states. When a project fails, instead of asking who messed up, the first question should be, which readiness state was compromised.
That feels like such a powerful diagnostic tool. Was it cognitive overload? Was the team emotionally fried? Was there a lack of safety?
Yes, and it's not just up to the boss. The text discusses something called distributed stewardship. It means peers looking out for each other.
Like spotting when your colleague is about to just snap?
Exactly. Or noticing that someone is just overloaded and saying, hey, I'll take this meeting, you go take a walk. It's about peer-to-peer monitoring, because a manager isn't always in the room to see the smoke coming out of someone's ears.
And the article also mentioned changing what we measure. Right now, we measure output, but we rarely measure the cost of that output on the human system.
Correct. We need leading indicators of burnout. We should be tracking things like excessive task switching or total meeting hours or how many emails are being sent after 8 p.m.
Those are the warning lights on the dashboard.
They are. If you see a team's meeting load spike by 30%, you know their physiological and cognitive readiness is degrading. You can predict the error before it ever happens.
It's like checking the oil in the car before the engine seizes. If you wait for the smoke, it's too late.
That's a perfect analogy. If you drive the car into the ground, it doesn't matter how good the driver is, the car won't run.
So to recap, we spend billions on training, but we completely ignore the fact that even the most skilled person can't perform if their readiness dashboard is flashing red.
We assume humans are just machines that need software updates, which is training. But we're biological, emotional, social systems. If you want sustainable high performance, you have to support all 5 states: cognitive, emotional, motivational, physiological, and interpersonal.
It really changes how you look at a bad day at work. It's not necessarily that I'm bad at my job. It might just be that I wasn't ready in that moment because of the system I was in.
And that is the so what here. The most skilled workforce in the world will fail if they are fried, scared, or disengaged. You cannot train your way out of a readiness problem.
I love that. You cannot train your way out of a readiness problem. That should be on a billboard in every HR department.
It really should. It would save a lot of money and a lot of misery.
All right, we're going to leave you with a challenge today, and this one is directly from the text, and I think it's something you can try tomorrow.
The next time you see a performance failure, whether it's your own or a team member's, resist that initial urge to prescribe more training or just to get angry. Instead, pause and ask yourself one simple question. Is this a competence gap or is it a readiness gap?
That one question might just save you a lot of frustration and maybe a few $1 billion. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
See you next time.